Hello, everybody. We are almost done with the Magic Misfits, the second story. We are on chapter 29 out of 30 chapters. So, in the last chapter we read, Layla, so all the bad, the frown clowns, the fake lawyer, Sammy False Esquire, and Sandra all were arrested and taken to the jail in Mineral Wells. And in the last chapter we read, Layla decided that she wanted to go confront Sandra and go talk to her, because all through this book, Layla really looked up to Sandra. Noodles, your tail's right in my face. Very rude. So silly. So Layla really looked up to Sandra, and this whole time, she really wanted to believe that Sandra was the real deal. And she was obviously really disappointed to discover that Sandra was working with Callaghan this whole time, albeit she didn't want to be, but she was. And so Layla was really let down, and so she wanted to confront Sandra. So she did. Her dad took her over there, and she confronted Sandra and basically said, why did you do it? And there were things that Sandra seemed to not even be able to get out, she wasn't able to say, and that led Layla to believe that Sandra's still kind of being controlled by Callaghan in some way, and so she still wants to work with Sandra. She wants to be friends with Sandra, but until Sandra isn't under control by Callaghan, she can't, or she won't. But she did, on her way out, give her special key to Sandra, because she says, your dad was a locksmith, probably built this jail. Maybe you can use this key to, get out, basically. So Layla gave Sandra a key to break out of her cell, to break out of prison, which is an interesting choice. I think, Layla still sees the good in Sandra. Even after everything Sandra's done, Layla still wants to help Sandra. Well, here we are on chapter 29. So let's see what happens next. Layla found Mr. Vernon waiting for her just around the corner from the cell. She asked him, "Did you hear everything?" The way he squeezed her hand told her the answer was yes. On the way home, they talked about real things, no longer shackled by secrets and fear. "Was it bad that I gave her my skeleton key?" Layla asked. Mr. Vernon thought for half a second. "It was hers to begin with. Let her do with it what she will." "Unlike Bazo," Layla added, "Sandra has a conscience. I don't think we have anything to worry about." "Not from Sandra, anyway," Mr. Vernon added, though under his breath. They walked in silence for a few seconds. Then, for the first time ever, Layla heard him stammer, I know what you're thinking." Feeling nervous, Layla teased to lighten the mood. "Please don't tell me you're psychic now, too." "Hardly." He paused and then smiled down at her. "At least I hope I'm not. Knowing the future doesn't appear to be the most useful skill for a magician." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a black wand with white tips. As he moved his hands apart, the wand began to float between them. Not like levitation. He clapped his hands together. The wand became a thick black billy club, which he clutched in his fist. Or transformation. He blew into the end of the club, and before Layla could blink, it had disappeared. Or vanishing. He held his empty hand out to her. "Or escape," Layla added with a skip and a playful twirl away from him. "So tell me, Dad, what am I thinking?" "Ah, yes," he said, holding up a finger. "You are wondering if I knew who you were when I first met you at Mother Margaret's." "I guess I was wondering that," said Layla. So, if you recall, we did find out who, after all the confusion about who Layla's biological parents are, was it the Varalikas we determined no, it is not the Varalikas. They're not related to her. That was a trick. But her special key that was left with her as a baby in her bassinet at the orphanage was Sandra's, Sandra Santos. So when Layla confronted Sandra at the jail, she, told Sandra, like, I know who you are. Basically, Sandra was her biological mom, the woman that held her in her tummy. So now Layla's wondering, did Mr. Dante Vernon know who Layla was when he adopted her all those years ago? Because Dante Vernon and Sandra Santos were friends, right? You are wondering if I knew who you were when I first met you at Mother Margaret's. I guess I was wondering that, said Layla. And? The answer is no. And yes. Confused, Layla shook her head. During our magic tour all those years ago, when I performed the charity show for the children at Mother Margaret's, your enthusiasm caught my attention from the back of the room. And afterward, when we spoke, your sparkly eyes made me think of an old friend. Sandra? Layla swung his hand as they crossed the street. He nodded. I'd been traveling far and wide, learning new magic skills, making friends, performing wherever I could while discovering the good in the world. By that time, I'd lost touch with Sandra, so I'd never learned that she'd given birth to a baby girl. And I certainly had no clue that she'd left that baby girl in the care of others. So when I met you, it was my memory of Sandra that made me curious to know more. But it was your spirit, my tough and clever girl, your spirit, that captured your papas and my hearts. I cherish the memory of the day we brought you home. I wouldn't trade it for the biggest slice of pie in Mineral Wells. Layla raised an eyebrow. Not even lemon meringue? Not even lemon meringue. Said Layla. Pie sounds really good right now. And with that, they decided to stop at the Main Street Diner for a sweet treat. When they were nearly back at the magic shop, Layla was surprised to find Carter crouched on the sidewalk, holding on to one end of a white string. The other end was looped around the body of a little blonde monkey. Carter was handing the creature stacks of shortbread cookies that he was producing from thin air. The monkey seemed happy to oblige, shoving each shortbread into his wide mouth. Who's the monkey? Did Carter finally catch the monkey? Baby Bazo's old monkey? Layla raced across the street, being sure to check for traffic, then skidded to a halt and dropped to her knees. Where did you find him? Creeping around under the gazebo in the town green, Carter answered. I lured him out with these treats and managed to slip your harness around him. Oh, he's so cute, Layla squeaked, seeing the monkey was almost enough to make her forget about her awful morning. Mr. Vernon held his palms against his forehead. I don't suppose you've called animal control, have you, Carter? Aw, Dad, can't we keep him? Layla begged. Mr. Vernon closed his eyes and sighed. He seemed to know how this would end. Carter chimed in, making his blue eyes big and innocent. Basil's locked up along with the frown clowns and the rest of the circus crew. The monkey is an orphan. Just like we used to be, said Layla. How could we send him away? Doesn't he deserve love like the rest of us? Mr. Vernon was listening, and Layla sensed he was about to break. Besides, imagine how much more foot traffic a real live monkey would bring into the store. Mr. Vernon sighed. I'll have to check with Papa, but maybe we can give the little beast a trial run. Brilliant, Carter cried. I've already thought of the perfect name. Oh, really? Asked Layla. What were you thinking? Well, you already have a parrot named Presto. It would only be fitting if she had a monkey sibling named Changeo. At that, the monkey glanced up at all three of them and shook its head as if in opposition to the name. Carter laughed before remembering his friend. How did everything go? He asked Layla. Come inside and I'll tell you. And that is the end of our chapter, which means our next chapter is the last one in our story. So I'm excited, but we'll have to wait to hear it next time. I will see you there. Bye, everybody.